Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of FC Popcorn. Today, we have a very special episode. Me and Gail from Film Companion, we really wanted to have a conversation about VFX, considering how much of filmmaking nowadays, genre-wise, production-wise, Hollywood, Bollywood, Indian cinema, everything is becoming the big VFX spectacle. But rather than us opine about it, we're very lucky to have with us today somebody who works in VFX who can really give us a look inside the world. So we have Jigesh Gajjar, who is head of VFX at DNEG India.
Yeah, that's correct.
Got it right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here and really demystifying this world that's getting more and more fascinating and significant day after day. But I'm just going to start by asking you if you could just list off some of your credits of the massive blockbusters you have worked on / are working on, because we were looking at it earlier today, and it's a pretty insane list. It's like a who's who of exciting Hollywood blockbuster.
Thank you for having me. I think the top blockbusters, I would say Tenet, most of the Christopher Nolan movies, Oppenheimer, Tenet, First Man. For some of the favorites ones recently that we did was Flash, Dune, my personal favorite. We're working on the next one right now, and
the second part.
I'm super excited about it. It's going to be bigger, better, and better this time. So the trailer's out, so do check it out. And I think next one, also previous from my past, I've worked on movies like Jungle Book. Right now, we are working on Ramayan. And various other projects which are running on the floor. So yeah, it's exciting time.
So this is the upcing massive Ramayan project with Nitesh Tiwari's making. Yeah. That's an insane list. You're rattling off like all of Christopher Nolan's movies like it's nothing. But that is a very, very exciting list.
Yeah.
So when it comes to someone like Christopher Nolan, who's not known for using a lot of VFX and who prefers to do practical effects, what is that like?
So of course, I think with him, if you see his portfolio, most of the movies are. Wherever he needs visual effects, he'll sort of bring it in. Mm-hmm. Where he doesn't need, he'll not add it in. He's more of a practical person who wants to shoot as much on plate as possible, So movies like, Inception and stuff, of course, it needs a lot of visual effects. You look at movies like Dunkirk, very, very subtle in that sense, Even the planes were shot in real time and stuff like that. So, of course, his way of movie making is very different. And he also uses different sorts of screens in the background instead of using the blues and stuff like that. He uses shades of grays depending on what he's shooting. So he's got a very different way of shooting as well. Plus, he's one of the only guys who's still out there shooting on film.
Yeah.
So that's quite a task when it comes to visual effects, going old way of scanning the film, digitizing it, and putting it back on film. So it's a lot of work, and most of his movies are on IMAX. Mm-hmm. So those are all 5K, 6K projects. Yeah.
But he really seems like an exception to most rules. Mm-hmm. But just, I feel like all of us have our definition of what we consider great VFX. What are some of your favorite examples? It could be stuff you've worked on or sort of things you haven't where you're like, that is just a great...
I think I would say for me, the game changer was The Matrix, the first one back in 99. Which is why I got into the industry, and luckily enough, I got to work at the same studio which made 2 and 3, and I started my internship there, and then recently we did the fourth one. Damn. So I was quite lucky.
Life comes full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got my satisfaction in terms of visual effects. So I think that would definitely, because it changed the way visual effects was being made. And which is what is happening right now. We changed the game on visual effects on the fourth Matrix as well. Where for the first time, I don't know if you saw the movie where you see the dojo sequence, that was completely done in real-time pipeline, which is you're not rendering any images. These are all used through Unreal. Yeah. And we did partnership with the Unreal team, and we did that real-time. So the director could pretty much change the angle while she was in Tenerife to direct a shot which we had loaded in our studio in DNEG, and that whole shot and the whole sequence was choreographed like that. So we are groundbreaking a lot of these things in terms of bringing real time to the visual effects mainstream as well.
Could you just explain what real time means?
So real time, I would say, is in terms of you've got the assets created for your visual effects. Say, I'll take the dojo sequence as an example. You have the dojo, the environment, the water, all the trees and the forest digitally created, looking real in terms of its quality. And then we can take it in front of a studio where we have an actor virtually acting it out there and put the environment there. And whatever you shoot from the camera becomes your final pixel. So you pretty much, whatever comes out of the camera goes for print.
So you can literally move your camera out in...
Pretty much, yeah. So you have a virtual camera in your hand, which is pretty much, say, an iPad or something like that. And then you pretty much doing an entire virtual choreography for that particular shot without having any set piece. All you've got is an actor and the set piece, stays in the studio, while the director could be in a third location and the actor could be in a second location, and none of these guys need to be together to make that shot happen. And that's what we did on Matrix. So, that was a big...
Sounds like a lot of Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
I also, you mentioned earlier pitching, the idea of the... how do you secure sort of Hollywood projects? And you said that, if I'm not wrong, you have to pitch every time sort of new production comes
right,
up.
yeah.
What is that like? Can you just walk us through that process?
So, of course, DNEG has been been in the industry for over 25 years. We've got our favorite sort of clients who sort of work with us, Christopher Nolan being one of them, and there's a long list of other studios and directors as well. So the way it works is we receive a bid package. We'll know sort of rough idea in terms of what's required. I would say we could take Dune as an example. We get a bid package, we get concept art. Concept art is something which the director works directly with a concept art. In this case, a very good friend of mine called George Hull was the concept artist for Dune 1, 2, and he's done Matrix and various other movies. So he works directly with the director. They jot out the sequences in terms of what the sequences are going to look like visually, the mood. We've changed a lot of the vehicles and the spacecrafts and all of the architecture for some of the new buildings. You'll see a lot of new environments coming in. So in that sense, these are visual references which will come in as a painting. And based on those paintings, we have a breakdown for the sequence in terms of what all is going to happen in that sequence. Mm-hmm. Like, is there going to be a lot of explosions? There'll be dialogues. There'll be transitions between day to night, or, there's be crowds in the background and stuff. So we break down our entire sequence, and that sequence maybe could be about 200 or 300 shots in one sequence, and that adds up in terms of the load of the movie. So a movie could have, say, 20 sequences, but each sequence could have 3 beats in it, maybe internal, external, and outer space beat in the same sequence. So we break down each and every shot in terms of what's required to build the assets. The first stage is building assets. So it goes through building pretty much everything that you see in visual effects. All your actors are made into digital characters. You got all your building of the environments that you'll see, which are not really available in real life. These are all visually created. So, all these assets need to be created first. Once the assets are ready, we start populating these into shots. And, that's when we marry the blue screen shots or any of the virtual photography that's happened on set with the assets that we've created, and we start to put them together, keeping the original visual that we received from the client as a final look of the movie in terms of what are the lighting and shading settings on that, how is the DOP deciding to shoot the movie. And that's where we come in, and we also chime in terms of where visual effects can come in and sort of figure out how can we minimize the visual effects at the same time maximize the output in terms of the visual final output. Final pixel is what we call what it looks like. Yeah.
So how much leeway then do you have to give your inputs on these, or is there other guidelines that you get very strict? How much do you get to play around with it?
There's different projects. Some projects we get these concept art from the director, so it makes it easier because we have a lot of concept and we work on it. We also have a art department where we work closely. A lot of our directors work directly with our art department. So the art department will sit down with you and create all the art that's required for the project. And that becomes more of an internal process for DNEG, where we start from scratch from doing the art department work, and then slowly it moves into a previs phase, which is where we start to blot out the movie in a more animatic storyboarding, but more of nowadays it's more of a visual 3D animatic, where it gives you a complete understanding of the choices of lenses, the lighting settings, what sort of internal, external, outdoor, indoor shoots and stuff you want to go by. So there are some guidelines, and on some projects we do have things where we can chime in, and depending on the knowledge of the director or the client, not all directors and clients are visual effects savvy. So, that's where we come in and we sort of help out and, walk them through in terms of how this process works. So that's where we have more creative sort of engagement with the clients on that. Yeah.
So the ideal place to come in would be at the script stage itself.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we can start planning entire production. We can figure out in terms of how much cost savings you can do in building production set pieces, and what we can do in visual effects compared to what we should be shooting live action. So at the script stage is probably the most best stage for visual effects to sort of come in and partner up. Yeah.
So when you look back at your career, what are some of the most challenging effects that you've had to pull off?
There's quite a few of them, but I think
I'm thinking of like the moon landing from First Man because that looked visually insane.
yeah, absolutely. I think this is again that was one of the movies where we started using the LED walls.
Okay.
One of the first movies where we experimented with a lot of tech in that and a lot of reflection glasses and mirrors kept in so that you sort of get that visual feeling of that you are in space.